Good evening, everyone. Can you see my screen?
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Thank you. So yesterday we were discussing about OECD guidelines or the contribution of OECD in the field of corporate governance. Today we will be discussing the contribution of important committees, that is the Cadbury Committee, then JJ Irani Committee, Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee. So important committees and their contribution in the field of corporate governance. What recommendations they have suggested to make corporate governance more effective in India, that we are going to discuss in today's session. So this OECD guidelines we had already discussed in the last session. So today we will be starting with the committees. So in the last session, also I had informed you that the most important contribution related to or in the field of corporate governance is considered as of the Cadbury Committee. What those important contribution were, we will be discussing now. So the first contribution or the first recommendation given by the Cadbury Committee to improve corporate governance is the effectiveness of board is observed by its regular meeting, full control over the company and check over the executive management. Some of the points which are mentioned in the Cadbury Committee, we had already discussed when we were discussing role of corporate governance in India. So the first one is effectiveness of board. Whether the board is effective, board means the board of directors, which is considered as the highest authority of the organization. Whether that board is functioning effectively or not, it is to be decided by whether the board is meeting at a regular interval or not. It should not happen that board is meeting only once a year, and that too just for the sake of meeting, just for the record purpose. That is not effective functioning of the board. Effective functioning of the board means that it is meeting at least 4 times in a year, and whenever the meeting is taking place, agenda is circulated of the meeting before the meeting, and the agenda points related documents are shared by the organization within time with the directors at the board, so that they can come prepared for the meeting and there can be a good discussion before taking a decision on a particular issue. Then only we can say that yes, the board is effectively working. And as it is considered that board is the highest authority, it should have the full control over the executive management of the company. The executive management should not control the board, but the board should be controlling the executive management. Then only we can see that yes, the board is effective. So the first recommendation was to ensure effectiveness of board. How we can assume that yes, the board is effective or the board is ineffective? So they have mentioned that if the board is functioning regularly, if the meetings are attended by the board of directors, all the board of directors, when they are coming for the meeting, they are well prepared, and all the decisions are taken on the basis of that good discussion, which is based on facts and figures, then only we can assume that yes, the board is effective of a particular company. Now, the second one, The chairman should be strong and independent rather than yes man. Now, very important, the chairman of the board, who is considered as the highest person in the board of directors, if say 10 are there as director, the chairman assumes the most important position, more authority than rest of the members. So here Cadbury committee has recommended that how the chairman should be. So what is expected is that chairman should be very strong and he should not be the yes man. Yes man means that the strategy has been already finalized by the executive management, and the executive management places that strategy in front of the board where the chairman is supposed to sign, and chairman without any questioning signs that particular strategy. So that particular person will be called as a yes man of the management, that he is being used as a rubber stamp. He is sitting there as chairman just for the sake of the law or for the compliance purpose. He is not very strong. So what is expected is that instead of yes man, the chairman of the board should be strong. Now the next one is non-executive directors should play a significant role in the board's decision. In the second chapter, when we will be discussing about the type of directors, there we will be discussing that what is the role and how the non-executive directors are appointed. Now, there are executive directors, there are non-executive directors. So, executive directors are those directors which are involved in the day-to-day functioning of the company, whereas non-executive directors are those directors who are not involved in day-to-day functioning of the company, but they are involved in important decision making for the company. So these people should play a significant role. What is expected by the Cadbury committee? That they should not play a passive role, just listening, just attending the board meeting and signing against their name. That is not the good, uh, that is not expected from a non executive director. What is expected is that they should play a significant role. Significant role means a very important role. Whenever the decisions are taking place, then if they are having any doubt related to any decision or any strategy that is placed before the board of directors to be finalized, they should cross question. They should have cross questions for the executive management about the merit of that particular decision, advantages and disadvantages of that particular decision. All these things should be, so they should play a very vital role, important role, active role. Who? The non-executive directors. The next one is, if the director need advice for their duties, then there should be a procedure of professional help at the company's expense. Now, for example, if a company is preparing for a new strategy in the sense that company is going for, say, diversification. For example, company is into manufacturing of two wheelers, and now the company wants to manufacture four wheelers, and that too the e 4 wheelers, electric 4 wheelers. Four wheelers, electric 4 wheelers. 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 Electric Now, for making decision on this particular issue, whether it is feasible for the company or profitable for the company or not, what are the pros and cons of this particular decision? If the board of director feels that they should take some expert advice and that expert is not part of the board of directors, now for that particular thing, there has to be a procedure in the company that in case, wherever, whenever the board of directors think that they should take some external help, external professional advice related to a particular decision, so there should be a provision for that. And the charges which are being charged by that external professional or external expert for providing his or her advice on a particular decision, that should be borne by the company. It should not happen that the directors are there, but directors are not having that much of knowledge about a particular thing. As there is no policy for external help, so they take a decision on the basis of whatever knowledge they are having. So that may not be very good for the organization. So instead of that, if they feel that some external expert is to be consulted, so they should have that much of authority with them that no problem, the external advice can be taken and whatever the charges are, that will be paid by the company. That is another important recommendation. Now, the next recommendation is director service contract should not exceed 3 years without shareholder approval. Very important recommendation, which talks about that a tenure should be fixed of the directors. It should not happen that once a director is appointed by the organization in the board, he will remain forever or till the age of retirement as director. So what the Cadbury committee has suggested that he can continue his services as a director in the board of a particular company for not more than a period of 3 years. He can be renominated as the director in the board of a company, but when his nomination is approved by the shareholders. Next one, there should be full and clear disclosure of total emoluments, pension, stock option of executive directors and chairman. Now it talks about that the packages, the salary, the incentive, the benefits, or the stock option, or the perquisites, which are associated with the higher authorities. Here, we are not talking about the all the employees of the organization. Here, we are restricting ourselves to the top executives. So it can be the general manager, senior managers, managing director, or CEO. So four, five, six, seven, eight very important positions or the highest positions in the organization. Their emoluments, whatever they are getting, how much salary they are getting, how much incentives they are getting, if stock options are provided to these seven, eight highest ranking officials of the company, what are those stock options? How many stocks are transferred in their name? So all these things should be should be transparent and it should be shared by the executive management with the board of directors. And the board of directors should approve, or it should be in a position, or it should have that much of authority that it can make certain changes in the emoluments, total emoluments of the highest authorities in the organization. Now, the next one is the main duty of the board is to assess and the company's present companies assess the present company's actual position. So actual position is to be assessed by the board of directors. Actual position, not manipulated position. So we have been discussing that the most important part is related to disclosure of financial statements of the company. So it should be the actual disclosure, not manipulated disclosure. The company should not feel that if the actual disclosure is done, last year the company has earned profit, this year the company is not earning profit. So whenever the financial statements are to be shared, they should be based on true picture or correct facts and figures, not for the sake of just attracting the investment. The company is manipulating. Last year there was a loss of 10 crore, but company wants to doesn't want to share that figures with the shareholders or with the stock stakeholders. And the reason behind that is that if this information, that company had a loss of 10 crore last year, is shared with the shareholders, automatically what will happen? The existing shareholders will sell the shares of the company, feeling that the prices of the share will go down, as well as the new investor, it will be difficult for the company to find a new investor for the company. To avoid that, the general practice of the company is normally, various companies, they do not share this type of news. So that is not expected. That is not correct. That is not um, lawful. So whatever profit is there, share it with the shareholders. Loss is there, share it with all the stakeholders. Next is the board and the auditor should maintain a good professional relationship. Very important. The board and the auditors should maintain a good professional relationship. So the relationship between the board of directors and the auditors should be professional and not personal. Because if personal relationship is maintained, develops, then there are chances that the auditors, because of that personal relationship, may overlook one or two instances where changes have been made in the financial statements. So to avoid that, what is expected is that the relationship between the board members and the auditors should be purely professional, not personal. Next, the board should establish an audit committee of at least 3 non-executive directors with written terms of reference which deal clearly with the authority and duties. So it is mentioned very clearly that there has to be a audit committee in all the companies. What will be the role of that audit committee? What will be the functionality or responsibility of the audit committee? How many directors will be appointed in that audit committee? And that too, non-executive directors, not executive directors, because executive directors are involved in the day-to-day functioning of the company. So they can be partial at many times. They can take the side of the company. They can overlook the misappropriation in the financial statements. So what is expected is that instead of the executive directors, there has to be at least 3 non-executive directors. who should ensure that the audit is taking place as per the laid down rules and regulations of audit. Next is the director should explain their responsibility for preparing the accounts next to a statement by auditor about their reporting responsibilities. So not only the auditors, not only the people in the finance department who are preparing these financial statements, but also the non-executive directors of the audit committee. Everyone has to sign and everyone shall be held responsible or accountable for the preparation of financial statements. So if any irregularity is reported later on, not only the financial department people, that not only strict action shall be taken on these people, but strict action shall be taken against all the people who have signed that document and who are held accountable for preparation of that particular document. So that were the important Cadbury committee recommendation. Various more than 25 recommendations were proposed by the Cadbury committee to make the corporate governance more effective. But what we have discussed is the important one, 7 8 important recommendation that we had discussed. Now the next one is the OECD guidelines. Yesterday, some of the guidelines we had already discussed. So those we have already discussed, we will not discuss this again. And only those we will discuss which we have not discussed in the last session. So OECD, Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, OECD principles have been proposed to help the government in evaluating and improving the legal and regulatory framework of corporate governance in their countries. So in the last lecture also we had discussed that what is the role of OECD. OECD is an international forum where number of countries are the member of OECD. So the main role of OECD is to suggest new changes, that what changes can be made in the existing rules and regulations of corporate governance for making it more effective. So this particular international body, they can propose the recommendations, suggestions to the member countries. If India, now India is member of OECD. So if OECD is coming up with some new suggestion, some new recommendation, so they will what they will do is they will share those new recommendation, no new suggestions with all the member countries, with India and other member countries. Now it is up to the government of that particular country to accept as it or to accept with minor changes. Next is it provides guidance and recommendation to stock exchange, investors, corporates, and other parties and that have role in the process of developing good corporate governance. So it works as a guideline. The recommendations of OECD works as a guideline for the corporates, for the stock exchanges, for the investors and other parties to understand what their role should be and how they can make the corporate governance more effective, less fraud and more effectiveness. Next is appointing majority of independent directors towards better corporate governance. Now, one of the most important contribution or guideline given by OECD is the third one, that is appointing majority of independent directors towards better corporate governance. More independent directors should be appointed. Now, independent directors are those directors who are not involved in the day-to-day functioning of the company, as well as who are not having personal interest or individual interest in the affairs of the company. Personal interest means that they have not made investment in the stocks of the company. So these people who are appointed and who are nowhere directly or indirectly related with the affairs of the company, these directors are called as independent directors. Now, the important OECD recommendation is that majority of the members who are appointed in the board of the organization should be independent directors who are not related directly or indirectly with the affairs of the company. And the reason behind is that that will make it the corporate governance structure more transparent and more effective. Because if most of the board of directors are executive directors, what will happen that these executive directors, as they are involved in the day-to-day functioning of the company, so whatever decision, whatever strategy is prepared by the executive management, executive directors, very easily they can clear those decisions, those strategies, those policies in the board of directors also. Why? Because majority is of the executive directors who are involved in the affairs of the company and who are also the part of the highest decision making body, that is board of director of the company. So there will be less questioning on these policies, on these strategies, as compared to when the number of independent director is more and executive director is less. So whenever company will come up with a new policy or new strategy, a good discussion will take place that why this policy is to be initiated in the company. If some changes are suggested in the existing policy, why those changes are suggested, what are the advantages of those suggested changes. So thorough discussion can take place, because most of the directors are not in the day-to-day affairs of the company, and that is the reason why the OECD guideline says that majority of independent directors should be appointed for better corporate governance in any country. Now, the next important committee which we will take up for discussion is the Naresh Chandra Committee. The Naresh Chandra Committee, it recommended that the relationship between statutory auditor and the company. What should be the relationship between the statutory auditor and the company? Now, this is based on the Cadbury Committee guideline, where we had discussed that the board and the auditor should have a professional relationship and not a personal relationship. Same suggestion or same recommendation was given by Naresh Chandra Committee in 2002, that relationship between the statutory auditor and the company should be professional one, not a personal one. Now, statutory auditor means auditor which is mandatory, which is a external auditor, not an internal auditor. Now, if personal relationship develops, what happens is that every year the company will start engaging or start taking the services of the same external audit firm. And slowly and gradually, what will happen? There will be the personal relation between the company and the auditor will start developing. And when personal relationship develops, it is a common tendency that when personal relation starts developing, small mistakes are ignored. To avoid that, what is expected is that the relationship should never be personal. It should always be professional. And when personal relationship starts developing, first year the same auditor was approached, second year also same auditor, third year same auditor. So every year the company will approach or appoint or engage the same audit firm. Why? Because there is a personal relationship development between the company and the auditor. And if only professional is there, then every year the company may look for the other external auditor, or after 2 3 years the company may look for the other external auditor. So more transparency will be there, more effectiveness will be there if the relationship is only professional and never personal. Next one: alteration and revision of statutory audit firms or partners. Alteration and revision of statutory firms or partners. So they have mentioned in the second point itself that every year you cannot have the same audit firm. That auditor has to change for good corporate governance, for more efficiency. Next is appointment procedures for auditors and determination of audit fees, autonomy of audit function. That is very important. That what will be the procedure for appointing the auditors? That should be clear, that should be transparent, and that should be approved by the board of directors of that particular company. And while appointing the auditors, strictly the rules shall be followed. No diversion, no changes in the rules related to appointment of auditors shall be made by the company. Determination of audit fee. Okay, auditors are appointed. What fees they will be charging? That should be again very transparent, cleared, and approved by the board of directors. It should not happen that on paper one fee is shown and major part of the fees or extra fees the company is paying under the table. That the board also is not aware of. That is not expected. That is not accepted also. So whatever the audit fees, that how much they will be charging for audit, that should be very transparent. Only that amount should be given to the audit company, not anything extra. If company is giving extra, that means company is trying to gain favor from the audit firm, which is not correct, which is not lawful, which is 100% illegal. Last one is autonomy of audit function. Very important is autonomy of the audit function. The auditors should have autonomy. Autonomy means freedom, freedom to work as an auditor. They should not be controlled strictly by the organization. If they are being controlled by the organization, they cannot work effectively. So complete autonomy should be given, complete freedom should be given, that even if they come across a small misappropriation, small error in the financial statement, immediately they can bring it to the notice of the highest authority, that is the board of directors. And here, as they have brought it to the notice of the board of directors, it should not happen that after some days the executive management has started taking action against them, that why you had not reported to us and why you directly went to the board of directors, or why you directly went to the non-executive director instead of executive director. So that is not transparency, that is not expected also. What is expected is total freedom, total autonomy, 100% freedom should be given to the auditors so that they can function properly, function effectively. Now, the next one is measures ensuring management and companies fairness and transparency in financial affairs of the company. Strict measures should be laid down. Strict rules, strict policies should be there. This is how the financial statement will be prepared. This is how it should be verified, approved, and should be shared with the concerned people. Everything should be transparent, everything should be clear. Next is randomized scrutiny of audited accounts. Now, here, for example, the company has conducted a internal audit. Company has also conducted an external audit. Apart from that, above that, what is expected under the recommendation of Naresh Chandra committee, that randomized scrutiny of audit accounts, which means that randomly the audit committee at the board of directors or in the board of directors, they can randomly check some of the audits, some of the financial audited accounts, that okay, these figure, why this figure is included here, shows the evidences. They can counter. Already internal audit has taken place, external audit has taken place, but still what is expected, that a step further it has moved, and it has said that Naresh Chandra committee has recommended that some of the random accounts can be selected by the uh, this audit committee in the board of the company, and they can check the evidences which support those figures, and they can do the audit. So not the entire audit, random audit, right? Next one is ensuring the independence and effectiveness of independent directors. Again, very important, ensuring independence and effectiveness of independent directors. Now, independent directors are nominated. How they are nominated, what is the role, what is the eligibility criteria, what are their responsibilities, that we are going to discuss in unit number 2 when we will be talking about types of directors. Here, what it means is that when an independent director is appointed, he or she should not be given lucrative offers by the company. Independent means he is not directly, not indirectly involved in the affairs of the company. But company wants to convert him to the company's side. So whatever is expected that a independent director should be paid, say, 20,000 rupees for attending one meeting. That is statutory. That is as per the policy of the company. It can be 10,000, it can be 20,000. It is as per the policy. So independent director, if he attends one meeting, he shall be given 20,000 plus to and fro and other expenses. That is the policy of the company, rule. Now, when the company feels that the company wants to take favors from the independent director, what they do is that above what is expected in law, in rule, under Companies Act, they start giving more than that to the independent director. So if the rule is that the independent director shall not be paid more than 20,000 rupees for attending one meeting of board of directors or one meeting of audit committee. It is mentioned there in the rule, not more than 20,000. What the company is trying to do is they are giving an excuse that we are having, we are making a huge profit and we want to share that profit not only from our with our employees, but we want to share that profit with our directors also. So instead of 20,000, we will be paying 1 lakh rupees to the independent director for attending one meeting. Now, this makes it partial. What the company is trying to do is, with this lucrative offer, the company is trying to make the independent director to fall in line with the company policies, with the company strategy, and that is not good for corporate governance. So independent directors should be treated as independent directors. The company should not try to convert these independent director in favor of the company. If such thing is taking place, then strict action shall be taken against those company officials who are indulging in such activities. So these were some of the important recommendations given by Naresh Chandra Committee. Now, the next important committee is the committee of Kumar Mangalam Birla, or Kumar Mangalam Birla Committee. In in early 1999, Securities and Exchange Board of India was set up. SEBI set up a committee under Kumar Mangalam Birla to encourage and raise the standards of governance in organizations. In the last lecture also, we had discussed that when India opened the door for foreign investments, when the strict rules of doing business in India were converted to ease of doing business in India, many frauds started taking place. And very a big fraud or huge fraud, we can say, was the security fraud that was done by Mr. Harshad Mehta. Now, to avoid such type of fraud and to raise the standard of governance, corporate governance in the Indian organization, SEBI recommended constitution of the committee under the leadership of Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla, because SEBI wanted to raise the standard of corporate governance. So what the recommendations of Kumar Mangalam Birla committee gave was that first formal and comprehensive attempt to evolve a code of corporate governance. So they gave the recommendation that there has to be a code of corporate governance. On the similar line, that when India got independence and when manufacturing companies were booming, at that particular time, for making the equal policies, equal rules for all the manufacturing companies or for all the companies at that particular time, model standing orders were initiated or were implemented by the government of India. Not exactly same, but similar type of rules and regulations should be followed by each and every organization. On the same line, Kumar Mangalam Birla committee also recommended that there has to be a code of corporate governance. The rules, the guidelines related to corporate governance. And that code shall be followed by each and every organization which fall under that purview of corporate governance. That was the first recommendation. So it should not happen that one company is following different corporate guidelines, the other company is following different corporate guidelines, and every company is of the opinion that the guidelines of on corporate governance which we are following are better than the other company. Now, to avoid that confusion, the committee suggested that there has to be one code of corporate governance, guidelines of corporate governance, and which shall be same for each and every organization. And that shall guide the organization for better corporate governance. Now, the next one, disclosure of both financial and non-financial data, frequency of financial and non-financial disclosure. So, financial and non-financial disclosure, how it is to be disclosed, the information, how the information related to finance and non-finance health of the company is to be disclosed, and the frequency of such disclosure, whether it should be disclosed once a year or twice a year or thrice a year or more time a year. So what type of disclosures should be made, how many times those disclosures are to be made, who are the parties who should be having access to these disclosures, how these financial and non-financial disclosures can be easily made available to the shareholders. So that was the recommendation given by the Kumar Mangalam Birla committee. And the next recommendation was It recognized three essential elements of corporate governance, that is, the shareholder, the board of directors, and the management. So it recommended, or it recognized, that there are three pillars of corporate governance. First pillar is the shareholders who are investing in the company. With the help of these shareholders, the company is raising the capital for its growth, for its expansion. The next one is the board of directors, who are the highest authority involved in all the policy making decisions, or the most important decisions. And the third important pillar is management. Management means the executive management, the management which is observing, or which is involved, not observing, but which is directly involved in the day to day functioning of the organization. So that is the third pillar, the management. So what it recommended is that all these three pillars, they should work hand in hand. Then only we can move towards good corporate governance. Disclosures, transparency, impartiality, values, ethics, all these things are to be followed not by one party, but by all the three parties, all the three pillars. The management should share real picture, real figures with the board, and the board should verify those figures, not blindly signing on whatever the figures which are being provided by the management, but genuinely checking all the figures, checking whether the decisions which are being suggested by the executive management, the policies which are being suggested by the executive management, are beneficial or not for the entire organization, entire company. That is to be checked. So when all the three pillars are strong, they are doing right thing as what is expected in the rules and regulations, or as per various acts, then we can expect good corporate governance in India. So that was the contribution of Kumar Mangalam Birla. The NR committee, NR Narayan Murthy committee, that we will be discussing on Monday. So before we wind up the session, an important announcement. We have shared you an email related to an online session which will be conducted by our honorable director, Professor Dr. Satish Ubade sir. The reason why sir will be conducting is also mentioned in the email, because the number of students attending the online session is very low. Sir also wants to know the reason for this low attendance, because for the benefit of the student, director sir has made this arrangement that early morning we should have three lectures, late evening we should have three lectures. In between, the student can concentrate on preparing their SIT. So from institute point of view, we are trying to do everything for your benefit. But for the last 1 week, when director sir has checked the attendance, he is very much concerned with the attendance. That is why we have shared the email. Please share that email in your informal WhatsApp group also, so that all the students join sir's address. It is compulsory. We have mentioned, please go through the email very carefully. The students, all the students, working, non-working, regular, all the students, it is compulsory that they should remain present for director sir's session. Again, the timing of the session is such that all the students can attend. So instead of morning hours, director sir has agreed to conduct the meeting tomorrow, that is Saturday, at 8 p.m., so that each and every student of third semester can attend that meeting. So please inform your friends also, those who are not there in the session, as well as share that information in your informal group also. We are very clear, and a note also we have mentioned in the email that those students who will remain absent for director sir's meeting, their SIP we are not going to check. So please spread this message and make sure that all the students of third semester remain present in director sir's meeting, which sir will be conducting tomorrow evening 8 p.m. Thank you everyone for being part of today's session. Again, we will meet tomorrow at 8 p.m. And for corporate governance session, see you on Monday. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.